Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs. I am Jinmist86, and today I'm going to be giving post-commentary over my Wind Waker HD All Dungeons speedrun in 2 hours, 48 minutes, and 28 seconds. At the current time of this recording, this is the current record for this category. So we enter in our file name, and we begin. You'll notice that I am skipping this cutscene right now. In the HD remake, the developers allow you to skip the introductory cutscene, which is nice, because the introductory cutscene is 3 minutes and 40 seconds long. You'll also notice that I entered in a 3-character file name, and the good thing about the file name in this game is that it doesn't matter how long it is, the file name will always get displayed in one frame, regardless of its length within the text field. So you can name your file whatever you want, which is cool. We got arrows searching around for Link, who always is asleep at the beginning of every Zelda game for some reason. But yeah, so the All Dungeons category is relatively new. It recently came to be due to the infamous barrier skip discovery that happened in April. And because of barrier skip, completing all the dungeons is now not required for any percent. And so this category just kind of came into being from that. So you also notice that I'm playing the game in Spanish. Spanish is one of the fastest text languages for Wind Waker HD next to Italian. I'm actually not sure which one is faster for All Dungeons because I've been too lazy to time it ever since All Dungeons became a category. But in old any percent, Italian was around 5 seconds faster than Spanish over the course of the whole run, so the difference isn't really that significant. Anyway, we're going to side hop off the tower. I'm going to pause right here and switch around some camera controls, because for some reason in this game, the default controls are inverted from that of the original game, which I'm used to. So I take the 1.5 seconds to switch around the controls to what I like. And we're just going to roll all the way to Grandma's house. Rolling is the fastest form of movement, or basic movement that we can do in this game. Continuous side hopping is not as fast as rolling as it is in some other Zelda games. And now I get to talk to Grandma and receive the clothes. We're not playing on a New Game Plus file because New Game Plus is actually slower for running this game due to extra text that you get. And unfortunately in Wind Waker speedruns, you can't skip most of the long cutscenes, you have to watch through all of them. Because cutscene skips really only started with, like, the release of Twilight Princess. And even though this is a remake of the original, they only decided that you should be able to skip the intro cutscene and no other cutscenes. Which is kind of unfortunate. It makes the beginning a little bit longer than I would have liked. But I still have fun with it. And then here we're going to be performing a save warp. Pretty much what this is we save the game and we quit, and we respawn back at the default location of whatever area we're in. And whenever we do this, it's faster because it warps us back to a position that's closer to where we need to be. So in this case, we need to go back to Errol and then receive the telescope. And during this cutscene, Errol can sometimes like hold her hand out and wave before it, which actually wastes time because the game during this cutscene is waiting for Errol to be in like an idling animation before the camera shifts. So thankfully she didn't do that, and if she does, it usually only wastes like 1.5 seconds, so it's not that big a deal, but it's still like just a little thing that can waste time, and it's like not in your control. Anyway, we got the telescope, and now we can use it for its one use in the entire game, which is to look at Quill by the mailbox. And zoom out to the Helmarock King, who has kidnapped Tetra. Now you'll also notice that I have in the top left of the screen a Pro Controller, which will pretty much show the button inputs that I'm giving the game throughout the entire run. I'm not actually using a Pro Controller, I'm using a gamepad, but the Pro Controller is like less of an area to display than the gamepad, and since the gamepad and the Pro Controller have the exact same buttons, you can just show it on the Pro Controller to save space. Also, this rock right here doesn't actually make contact with the Helmarock King. If you turn the camera like 90 degrees, you can see that the rock is like a meter in front of the Helmarock King's face, actually. which is kind of funny. There are like weird camera tricks like that all over this game. And once again, we side hop off the tower because going down the ladder is slow. And so for most of the early game, we're just going to be pretty much rolling everywhere. We're not going to be able to do really fast movement until we get the grapple hook at about the 42-minute mark. So now we're going to go in here and learn how to use the sword from Orca. Orca teaches us 5 main sword attacks. The slash, the vertical slash, the stab, the quick spin, the parry, and the jump attack. Oh, so I guess that's 6, so I can't count. Alright then. But they're all pretty basic techniques. For each of these, I hold down and then up on the 3rd and 4th slash of the combo to do a faster combo, at least for the first 3, which all end in a spin attack. And then obviously for the spin attack, we do a quick spin instead of holding the B button. And right here, you'll notice that I jump attacked first and then parried. What I tried to do was activate the parry on one of the first 2 frames possible, because if you do that, then you get the second parry really quickly, like what just happened. But if you're early and you jump attack Orca, there's actually not really a penalty for that, because you can just mash the A button and you'll get the parry in time to get the second parry really quickly again. And now we have the sword. For text in this game, you pretty much want to just mash A and B the whole time. Unless it's quick text. If you have quick text, then you want to hold the B button and mash the A button, since the B button will advance the quick text across, but the A button doesn't. The A button you mash to cancel the box. Now we're going to do another save warp. This save warp only saves a few seconds, because otherwise you would just roll across the island to this side. And the reason that we got the sword is because we need to cut down these trees. What's interesting is that even if you don't have a sword, there will, like, you still can't get past the trees because there's actually, like, a solid wall behind the trees unless you have a sword, which is very weird, since I don't think there's any other way to get past those trees without a sword, at least not that I know of. Anyway, we roll up to the Forest of Fairies. Tetra's hanging off on a limb. And so right here, there's going to be this log in front of us, which contains a red rupee. And instead of crawling into the log, we're just going to quick spin the log, because the radius that our sword makes actually allows us to collect like rupees and other items that might be around it, which is sort of unique to Wind Waker. It is very interesting. At least it's most recognizable in Wind Waker. I think it sort of applies in Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, but not to the effects that does in Wind Waker. And we're just gonna beat up the Bokoblins, get some rupees. Now, I didn't finish with as many rupees as I'd liked right here. I would have liked to finish with 30 rupees. Gotten like 10 from the grass in total, because that'll make the rupee route good. But I finished short. I think I'm at like 26 or 28 or something. But yeah, the only thing we need rupees for in this run is to buy the sail. And that's pretty much it. We don't need rupees to like decipher the Triforce charts in this run, because we're gonna actually skip the entire Triforce quest later on. Yeah, so this is our sister again. She's gonna go bye-bye in like 30 seconds. Actually, less than that. Yeah, so, like I said before, the beginning of the game is generally just a lot of cutscenes. It's nice because it gives you, like, lots of breaks to go and, like, you know, go to the bathroom or get water if you need to, which is nice. Now, all logical thought has left Link's brain as he attempts to jump off a cliff to save his sister. He would have been fine if he landed in the water in normal gameplay, so I don't know why Tetra and Gonzo are trying to save him here. Yeah, so more text, more plot that is pretty standard for a Zelda game. I didn't talk about this earlier back when I defeated the Bokoblins, but when I did defeat them, I'd actually done a single slash to them and then did a technique known as a jump slash spin attack, which for some reason does a massive amount of damage in this game. A jump attack on its own will deal 2 damage, and a spin attack on its own will deal 2 damage, but for some reason if you combine the two by circling the control stick midair in a jump slash, the resulted attack will actually do 6 damage, which is kind of strange, but it helps because it defeats those Bokoblins really quickly, and it's very helpful for defeating enemies later in the game as well. Anyway, Grandma's sad now, because our sister is gone. For some reason, she took the shield off the top shelf, so we have to watch a cutscene with her. So this is the hero's shield. It's not very useful for, like, anything. There's only really, like, one part where the hero's shield is actually somewhat useful throughout the entire run. Unfortunately, besides the sword, everything else here is just kind of useless that we get on Outset. But now we're done on Outset, so we can leave with Tetra and the gang. This Outset was pretty good. Generally, like an 1150 or so Outset is, like, pretty decent. The only real mistake I made was, like, jump attacking Orca to not get the quick parry as fast as possible, but that only wastes, like, a second or so. And now the drums beat, the horns sound, and off we go. Link takes one look back at Grandma before embarking on his glitchy journey to beat Ganondorf. So when we get control here in the pirate ship is actually a completely separate map from the overworld. It's just like a quadrant of water that it sits in. It is possible to actually clip out of the pirate ship, but that doesn't result in being able to do anything. So instead our only choice is to go inside and jump on some ropes. Here you'll notice that I'm gonna roll and then instantly hang off of a ledge to drop and do more rolls. The way you do that is by letting go of the control stick before you reach the end, and then Link won't jump off of it. And here we have Nico. He's gonna show us how to play this embarrassingly easy game, or so it looks. This game isn't that hard, obviously, but it can sometimes be difficult to go fast on it, because the rope physics in this game are kind of weird, and sometimes the ropes will, like, throw you off in, like, weird directions, or, like, weirdly off-center from where you, like, grabbed onto the rope. Unlike the original version. I'm not sure why that is, but it might have had something to do with the fact that in this game you can turn while you're swinging on ropes, whereas in the original game you can't. Because they wanted to add in that feature, I guess. So we have to wait a little bit as we grab each rope before letting go. It's like that one threw us like 2 feet to the left, and that one threw us to the right. Which is why you want to be careful sometimes when on these ropes. And then Nico's embarrassed by how fast we're going, so he lets us get to the treasure chest behind him. Which contains yet another useless item, the Spoils Bag. Spoils Bag's not used at all on the run. It would actually be more convenient if we didn't get the Spoils Bag, or if we could somehow skip it in an RTA setting. because the spoils bag is what causes like spoils to appear, like when you defeat enemies and stuff. And it would be much more convenient in some situations if enemies didn't produce spoils. And we're going to do our third save warp of the run, which gets us back out to the pirate ship deck. And so right here, while I'm climbing this ladder, you'll notice that there are lights in the background at Forsaken Fortress. And those lights are on a cycle. And since this cutscene that I'm about to watch takes place on this map, while this cutscene is happening, the lights will be going through their cycle. And I want to be able to make a really quick cycle with the lights, so I actually have to, like, sort of worry about how fast I'm mashing here to make sure that it doesn't waste time and potentially make the light cycle bad for me. The seagulls point to where our sister is. Now you'll notice that there's that one light which is like searching around near the window. That's pretty much the searchlight that we have to disable when we get to Forsaken Fortress. We don't care about disabling the other two, since the other two aren't blocking our paths. Or our path. I don't know. English is difficult sometimes. Anyway, it's the infamous Link's barrel beat, which I'm sure many of you recognize. Now it's time to get launched into Forsaken Fortress. Thankfully, we don't have to cancel this text, it just goes by on its own. And our sword gets lost. Oh no. And sploosh into the water. Alright, so right here we're going to roll to the right and activate a Gossip Stone trigger. This trigger is skippable, but we need to activate it, because if we skip it here, we'll actually sort of dead-end the game later, trying to get the bombs. Because this trigger is what advances the state of the pirate ship to be the bomb's pirate ship. And this is the light cycle I was talking about. I want to roll around this light fast to get these 2 red rupees in the courtyard. And then quickly make my way up the stairs before the lights get back to me. So now up here we're going to do just a little trick called the window jump, where we're just going to pretty much jump off this ramp and land in this window. Which is faster than going through the 2 doors and going through the inside to get to this ladder. So once again, this is the place with the searchlight that we need to disable. And the way you disable the searchlight is by killing the Bokoblin. If the Bokoblin is still alive and you enter a loading zone, then the searchlight will regain control once you come back out. And the quickest way to kill him is to spin attack him off the ledge, which will send him falling down too far for him to survive. And then we can use the stick to jump attack back into the window. And so now we just want to get to the end of Forsaken Fortress as fast as possible. Thankfully this rope, unlike the ones in the rope game, it tends to not throw you around randomly like those, so you can mash A for that one, thankfully. And then right here I'm actually going to sidle into this door. The reason for this is because it skips the door opening animation. You can actually reach the loading zone to that door by sidling on it because it's so close to the door, and so it saves that time. And then here we're just going to roll past these moblins. In the original game, if a moblin noticed you, you were basically caught. But in this game, they give you like this sort of grace period between when a moblin notices you and when you're caught. But if the moblin is right next to you, you will be caught. So as long as you stay away, you'll be fine. And here we have another moblin. This moblin can sometimes move forward randomly, like before you cross that corner, in which case he will notice you, but just like with the previous moblin, we can just roll past him. And then right here, I'm actually going to do a technique known as quick sidling, where I'm basically mashing left on the control stick instead of just holding left, because it saves like a few frames per sidle ledge that you go across. And then the same thing right here. Must pick up these mandatory hearts. Now we're at the top, and we can get our sword again. Just like with the Bokoblins in the Forest of Fairies, we're going to try to deal 3 damage to this green one, and then do a jump slash spin attack, initiated out of a side hop. 1, 2, 3. Unfortunately, the camera was weird, so or the direction on the control stick that I was holding didn't allow me to do a side hop, so instead I accidentally jump attacked, which wasted time because I knocked down the Bokoblin. Still finished ahead though, so it was alright. And now we get to one of the longer cutscenes. Now, the seagulls that move around during this cutscene are actually random, so like every time that you view this cutscene, they'll be in different places, and that goes for all cutscenes with seagulls. Like when we come back here later, we're gonna view another cutscene, which will also have random seagulls. So I guess I can use this time to explain the timing program on the left. The timing program is called Live Split, which is free to download for anyone. It's used by a lot of speedrunners because it's pretty popular. When the time is green, that means that I'm ahead of my previous record that I completed, which was 2 hours, 49 minutes, and 39 seconds. If the time is red, that means that I would be behind my previous record. And if the time is blue, that means that the particular segment that I'm tracking right now, that was the best that I'd ever done that segment, if it's blue. So we will see some blue splits later in this run. Anyway, we got hurled out into the middle of nowhere by the Helmarock King. Now the King of Red Lions comes to pick us up. What's interesting is that this cutscene actually doesn't exist in the original Japanese version of the game. Like, they only added it into the following releases, like, I guess to make this next cutscene, like, just make more sense, I guess. And now we wake up yet again. And we get very shocked out by a talking boat. Yeah, generally, like, during the beginning of these runs, I'm just sort of on autopilot most of the time. Because it's mostly like text mashing and then just rolling around. You don't have to concentrate for very much. But it is still important to like try to make movement the best that it can possibly be. Now this is where the King of Red Lions tells us that we need to go buy a sail. So the sale is 80 rupees. Currently, I believe I have 68 or 66, I think. I keep on forgetting which one. Oh yeah, so 68. So this is Windfall. Right when this cutscene ends, I'm going to attempt to get rupees from a flower patch in front of me. And I ended up getting 6 rupees right there, which is good, because then I can get a blue rupee in this pot right here, and then another blue rupee right before I obtain the sale, which is 80 rupees. I'm going to go into the Windfall Jail right here, and we're actually going to free Tingle. You may have heard earlier that this run skips having to do the Triforce quest, so you may be wondering why I'm saving Tingle, because he's the one who deciphers the Triforce charts. The reason for that is because we actually have to save Tingle if we want to buy the sail. Otherwise, the sail merchant Zunari is gonna say like, oh, I feel so sorry for that green man in jail or something like that. So we have to save Tingle. It gives us the useless Tingle bottle, followed by the useless Tingles chart. Yeah, I don't know why Tingle was in jail. Apparently did something bad. He enslaved his brothers. And then this pause coming up right here is because the game forces you to configure Tingle bottle settings. So I just cancel out of all of it and then continue on. Pick up the last pot, collect my blue rupee, go to buy the sail from Zunari. Thankfully Zunari's text is all fast. We got the first useful item of the game besides the sword. And with it, we're going to proceed to do the longest sailing section of the run. We're going to sail from Windfall to Roost Island, which is 2 quadrants. And during our trip there, we're going to do a technique known as sail pumping. And this is like the first ever technique ever discovered for Wind Waker speedrunning back in the early 2000s, so it's pretty old. Pretty much you just take away, or put away the sail and take it back out again repeatedly. The reason this helps is because every time you do that, you actually get a very small boost forward. And if you do it continuously from here to Roost Island, you save like 3 seconds or something over just sailing without doing it. And it is kind of annoying to do, because it means that you actually like have to concentrate on doing this same repetitive movement for like 2 minutes straight. In Old Any Percent, we would have taken this opportunity to get rupees via what's known as the barrel game. You may have noticed the set of barrels that had flags on them that I passed back there. If I was to go through those, it would start this like series of rupee collection barrels that I would go over. And they would slowly get larger and larger in value, starting at green, going to blue, and then to yellow, and in total giving 80 rupees. But because we don't need any more money, it's just not necessary. Journey's almost over. Gotta get into the cutscene trigger for this island. And this is actually the point right here where save warping begins to actually put you back to whichever island you're on. The save flags in the beginning of the game, like when you start out the game and you're on Outset, no matter where you are on the overworld or in whatever map, like if you were to like warp yourself to Hyrule and save warp, you would end up back at Outset. And that changes when you get onto the pirate ship, obviously. And then when you get to Windfall, your save warp location is set to Windfall, no matter where you are. But now that we've gotten to Roost and we've gotten the Wind Waker, it's just set to whichever island we're on, or if we're in a dungeon, or in Hyrule. And first we play Zelda's Lullaby, typical Zelda song, and then we play whatever this is. The reverse Ballad of Gales. Red Lines is like, great, here's the Waker. Alright, so now we're going to do another really old Wind Waker trick that's useful in the HD version known as Rock Skip. Basically, we can just jump off of this rock to the higher platform and use the bomb to blow up this rock. But yeah, because that rock is like slightly off the ground, we can take that opportunity to jump. And Skip's having to go around and blow up a bunch of other rocks and sidle across a ledge. And now we meet Quill, who gives us more text and tells us that he's very sorry about what happened to our sister, and that we can't find her. And so in this cutscene, we receive the delivery bag near the end, which is basically just another useless item that the game forces us to have. It's useful for a category like 100%, but in this category we just receive it so we can get a letter to deliver to Komali, which is the chief's son. We learn about how Valu is angry. Yeah, we're almost done with the cutscene gauntlet. Things will get interesting once we get into Dragon Roost Cavern. Thankfully, this medley cutscene text, along with the next Komali cutscene text, is all quick text. With the exception of getting this letter. Yeah, so now that we have the letter, we can equip it onto the gamepad, or onto the X button using the gamepad. We don't have to pause to equip items with the gamepad, which is nice, so we can continue the flow of gameplay without being interrupted. Now there's our first pearl, but we're unfortunately not going to get it until we go through Dragon Roost Cavern. I guess one thing I should mention is that in this game, if you do what's known as a dry roll, where you just hold ZL and then press A to do a roll, it's not quite full speed. I believe the speed value for it is 20, whereas a full speed roll is 26. But it's a nice change from the original game where a dry roll was 5 speed and you had to walk forward before you could like actually roll good, or like get good speed for your rolls. So now we're talking to Medley again, and eventually she's going to give us the bottle once we throw her up onto the platform. Now the bottle is also kind of another useless item. We just use it to get water to pour on a bomb flower. And then obviously you can use it to like get a fairy if you want, but doing that is slow, so I don't do that. And thankfully the wind cycle here works out pretty nicely. It just is on the right cycle once you finish the text and you can throw Medley up immediately. So yeah, we equip the bottle, use it to get water, and then we're going to jump slash back up onto this platform and roll off of it to jump onto the broken bridge which we can climb up. And we're going to pour water onto this bomb flower and use this bomb flower to blow up the rock that's blocking the pond. What's interesting about that rock is that you actually can't blow it up with a normal bomb. You have to use one of the bomb flowers here in the area, or else the cutscene to blow up the rock doesn't activate. Which is kind of strange because, like, you're never supposed to have bombs here. Like, this is a speedrun and we don't have bombs here, but I don't know, it makes me think that it might have been, like, you might have, like, gotten bombs earlier in, like, Beta Wind Waker or something. I don't know. Now we're going to throw a bomb into the right pot and make the statue fall. And then right here we're going to do a precise jump slash to skip having to throw the second bomb. And we're going to head our way into Dragon Roost Cavern, which is the first dungeon of the game. Unless you count Forsaken Fortress, but I personally don't. This dungeon is definitely one of the more technical ones. There's lots of optimization that's gone into it, and lots of little time savers. So we get the stick from the Bokoblin, and we use it to light these torches. Which is the only way of making this small key chest appear. And I had to wait before I rolled again so I wouldn't pick up that torch when I rolled past it. Sometimes the torch will like land on the floor and it'll be fine, but other times it'll like be close to you and you'll pick it up accidentally, which is annoying. I only have to pull out the block once. And here we're just gonna do a little jump slash to like just get a small shortcut going to the next platform. With picking up these bomb flowers and throwing them, your goal is that you want to have them land on the ground next to their target as fast as possible, because when they land on the ground, their timer sort of gets sped up, and they get closer to detonating that way. And we let this Chew jump over us, going into the next room. We need to let this Bokoblin in the pot break the wooden barrier before we stun him to get his weapon. Otherwise he'll be stuck in there with his weapon and we'll have to reload the room. Yeah, nothing too crazy so far. Right here, these bomb flowers on the wall are close enough so that you can actually reach them with a spin attack. And then roll forward during the cutscene to gain extra distance. Now this stick right here, most of the time it's fine, but there are some times where the stick will like clip out of bounds and fall down, which is really strange. Thankfully it didn't happen here though. It's pretty rare that that would happen. And right here we can completely avoid needing to interact with that Bokoblin just by jumping around him. And we easily avoid the lava cycle right here. If you go fast enough, it's pretty easy to avoid that, because the lava cycle is actually on a timer when you first enter the dungeon. So you can sort of gauge how well you're doing by where the lava cycle is when you go past it on the ladder. And then here we can skip having to like hang climb all the way over that ledge with a side hop jump attack. And this is the infamous rat room, where rats can sometimes troll. Go on the right here, and then roll to climb up the next block so I don't have to wait for half a second for Link to start his climbing animation. Because in this game they changed, like, climbing up blocks to be automatic, whereas in the original you had to press a button to climb up blocks. Anyway, this stick torch we're just gonna throw to burn the wooden barrier. This entire dungeon is basically like burn the wooden barrier and get the small key, just like repeated with different puzzles over and over again. And here we got the Cardrock guarding the small key, and we just stab him once and he gives it to us. The camera right there is weird sometimes. Like, if it's bad, you'll sometimes, like, roll off and jump off the edge, which obviously is not good, because then you void out. Anyway, here we can throw the torch and then side hop to get to the door while the cutscene's playing. Saves, like, half a second. And here we get to the triple Bokoblin room. This first Bokoblin we can deal with a simple jump slash spin attack. We're going to release the second Bokoblin and then drop the third Bokoblin so that they come near each other. And then I tried to do another jump slash spin attack on these guys, but I failed again with the direction of the camera. So they kind of got out of position. And here we're just gonna walk around this magtail. Sometimes this magtail can troll you, but most of the time he's alright. And then right here we're going to use this bomb flower to open up the warp pot, because this is the room that has the boss door in it, and if we blow up this warp pot we can get back here really quickly with a save warp. And then just like most of the other rock cutscenes, you want to roll into it to get the distance before opening the door. So these stairs that we're going up right now are actually kind of weird. Like, sometimes you'll bonk on, like, the first set of them, but as you get higher up, you, like, won't bonk on them. It's kind of weird. Thankfully, there were no bonks, though. Alright, so now we got 2 green bokoblins. So we try to hit them each 3 times, and do the side hop, jump slash spin attack. I only got 2 hits on this guy, so he still had 1 health point left when I did the spin attack on him. Then we fight the Moblin. For the Moblin, you want to do 4 stabs and then a jump slash spin attack. Unfortunately, he blocked my spin attack, so I had to do 4 extra hits to him, which was 2 stabs and a quick spin. But now we get to the fun part of the run. Medley's going to give us the grapple hook, which is basically our ticket to breaking this game wide open. Now, the grapple hook allows us to do a technique known as item sliding, which we're going to see in just a moment after we get the grapple hook and save warp. But item sliding is a glitch that allows us to exponentially gain speed for as long as we want until, like, the game crashes pretty much due to speed overload of sorts. So save warping in a dungeon will take us back to the beginning of the dungeon. And from here we're going to get the boss key and proceed to fight the boss. So we take out the grapple hook, we walk forward, we pause, and then we hold a position known as ESS down on the control stick, which is basically just a very small tilt downwards, and that allows us to hit ridiculous speeds. So like right there, it looks kind of just like I teleported across the room, but what actually happened is I had so much speed that I went across the entirety of the room in 1 frame. And was able to grab this ledge over here. So now item sliding is also one of our main forms of movement, and its speed is basically limitless. The speed at which you start crashing the game is much higher than any speed that you need for any item slide in this game. The RNG on this Magtail was really weird. I've never had him, like, try to, like, attack me to the left like that before. So I wasn't really ready for this weird pattern. And then I was too close when I did the jump slash that time. So I didn't hit him. Side hopping, movement-wise, is faster if you're holding something above your head, because the side hop speed is roughly 24.5, whereas walking speed is 17. Now we got our boss key, so yay. We can go fight the boss. And once again, we're going to save warp to go back to the beginning of the dungeon, because the warp pod is, like, right at the beginning. Do another small item slide up the stairs, and move around to the pot. I do a jump slash there to not jump over the pot accidentally. And then instead of grappling across, we can just slide across with an item slide to get up the stairs and open the boss door. So yeah, item sliding's pretty crazy. You can cross pretty much any gap with it, as long as you can use a first-person item. The first-person items that work with item sliding are the grapple hook, boomerang, bow, and hookshot. Unfortunately, we can't item slide with just a first-person view mode, or with the telescope or the pictobox, which is sad. Otherwise, we could, like, use the speed to get off of Outset immediately and skip most of the early game. But anyway, here's Goma. Now, this fight is pretty scripted. Just need to swing across on Valu's tail 3 separate times to crack off Goma's shell. And this game lags pretty badly when there are a lot of particle effects on screen, so generally I keep the camera tilted away from Goma or like faced away from Goma. And this is where the shield is useful actually, because right here rocks will fall down randomly, and I can use the shield to block them in case they would have hit me. This is the second time. Goma's shell cracks even more. I also sort of just instinctively pick up rupees during this fight, because in most other categories you want to do that. And you used to do it all the time before item sliding or barrier skip became a thing. Anyway, this is the third time. I started this third swing behind Goma so that I would land right in front of her and be ready to grapple her eye down once this cutscene is over. Yeah, the eye takes 2 cycles to fully kill. You can one-cycle the eye, but we don't have the necessary tools to do that. To one-cycle the eye, you'd either need iron boots or bombs, I believe. But anyway, Goma's dead. That boss fight was pretty good. Unfortunately, due to the weird Magtail RNG that I'd gotten, I did end up losing time on this segment. Although I believe the final time here was 46:45 for Dragon Roost Cavern, and that's still a really good Dragon Roost Cavern time. Like, generally anything below 47 minutes is, like, acceptable for my standards. So we side hop off, then roll to the warp. 46:45. Also, you'll notice that there's a component on Live Split, sort of near the middle bottom, that says PB chance. And that component doesn't come with Live Split, but many people have asked about it. You can go and download it. I'm actually not sure where the download link is, because I got the download for that component like directly from the creator. But I'm pretty sure it's posted somewhere that you can go and find. Maybe if I find it, I can link it in the description. But basically, it uses 10,000 combinations of splits that you have left, like on your open live split, and sees how many of those combinations of times within your past 50% of runs would result in a new PB or a new record for yourself. Just wanted to throw that in there because I think that's how it works. Like, I might have been slightly wrong on that. But yeah, that's kind of how it calculates it. Anyway, now we have Din's Pearl. Back to the run. And so, at the beginning of this commentary, I said that New Game Plus is slower. The reason for that is because, you'll see that right there, Volu spoke Hylian text across the screen. And in New Game Plus, the Hylian text is translated, but the translated text in every instance is always more characters than the Hylian text. So it's slower. Also, I guess something I should mention is many people wonder like why I don't use the Japanese version for this game, because the Japanese version is fastest for the original Wind Waker. But the reason for that is because the Japanese version is actually not the fastest for Wind Waker HD. Japanese is actually one of the slowest, because when they remade this game, the Japanese text speed was not sped up at all, because I guess the creators thought it was fast enough. But every other text speed for each language was sped up by 4 times. So that's why Japanese is really slow. Anyway, here we're learning the Wind's Requiem, which is kind of unfortunate that we have to learn. We're only going to use it once in the entire run, but that one-time use is kind of crucial, even though it's not technically required. Now, it's still faster to get the Wind's Requiem and change the wind later. Because getting the Wind's Requiem takes about 40 seconds, and changing the wind takes about 10. Like 50 seconds lost, but you gain back that time. Anyway, here, we're gonna item slide into the water, and then super swim across the ocean to Great Fish Isle. The reason we're doing this now is so that we can go get the bombs before going to Forbidden Woods, since the bombs will save time in Forbidden Woods. And you'll notice that the Super Swim looks kind of crazy. I was going really fast right there on my way to Great Fish. And you might be wondering like how I knew where I was going. The answer to that is that I can actually see where I'm going like pretty calmly on the map screen on the gamepad that I'm using. Unfortunately, I can't show that to you. I don't have like a gamepad capture card or anything. But it is like very nice that we can see like where we're going on the gamepad while we're super swimming. But yeah, this is also a sequence break that we do in the run. You're not supposed to be able to get here this early. But thanks to the power of super swimming, we can basically go anywhere whenever we want. So now we're gonna super swim off of Great Fish with an item slide. This one is rather tricky because you can't item slide just off the shore anywhere on Great Fish like you can on other islands. You have to start charting an item slide on this very specific spot and then slide it into the water right there. And then from here we can swim all the way to Windfall. But before we go into Windfall, I sort of go around on the side and wait for the quadrant to load. If I tried going directly to Windfall, Link would actually sploosh and lose all his speed when he entered the quadrant since the water reloads. And if the water reloads, Link falls straight down for a few frames, and once again loses all his speed. So now we're going to item slide onto the pirate ship, and we're going to perform password skip with a technique known as a roll clip. And basically the roll clip is just climbing up into a wall and then rolling on the first possible frame you have control to completely clip through. And from here we can maneuver ourselves underneath the railing and into the loading zone behind the door. Normally to get access to that door you need to watch a long cutscene where the pirates sort of reveal the password to get into the pirate ship. You cannot guess the password and like get it correct. You have to watch the cutscene for the password to be accepted to open the door. So thankfully that can be skipped with the roll clip. And we're going to see many more roll clips in this run later on. So now we got the second rope game. We can't item slide across here because this game doesn't allow you to use the grapple hook in this area. So we have to go on the ropes. My swing, or my release on this last rope was too late, so I grabbed way too high right here, so I had to turn. And then I was able to do this weird double re-grab thing to get the speed necessary to swing out. So it saved me having to do an extra swing. So now we get the bombs, which are a pretty useful item. They're necessary in a lot of places. Now Tetra's telling us that the pirates are going to go to Jaboon and that we better get there first. Or else we're not going to get Jaboon's treasure, or something like that. So now we're going to save warp out of the pirate ship again, because save warping here will put us out on the Windfall docks, which is very close to the Windfall super swimming spot. So once again, super swims are done by charging up an item slide on land, and then slowly sliding it into the water so you can keep your speed. And now we're going to go to Forest Haven, which is all the way sort of on the other side of the map. But it's a very big landmark, so you can see it if you're looking at the screen also. Now normally you're supposed to climb up Forest Haven and grapple some grapple targets and swim across, but instead of doing that, we're gonna do a clip into the island by holding forward during an item slide instead of ESS down. And this allows us to sort of just fall through the island and using the water that's in the loading zone for Forest Haven, we actually get warped up because of the water. That doesn't work with any other loading zone because most other loading zones don't have water on, like above them. But in this game, if you're underwater, you pretty much immediately get warped back up to the top. And we can do some short item slides before we get to the Deku Tree, who has some facial issues. So the only way to get these chews down is to bonk on the Deku Tree. And because we have bombs, we can actually kill the chews pretty fast. Normally you'd have to wait for the green ones to come back up, but the bomb, like, it just deals with all of them really swiftly, and the game lags a lot. And once again, we have Hylian text. I guess I can mention that it is possible to skip this cutscene in the original game with the glitch known as storage. But that glitch was patched in the HD remake, and so we can't do the cutscene skip here. The original game, however, does not have the item sliding glitch, which we heavily use, so it's nice to see that the two games are pretty different when it comes to speedrunning them. Now here's where people obligatory always go, "Yahaha!" because Breath of the Wild memes. And Koroks. Here comes Linder, who tells the Deku Tree that Makar has foolishly flown over the Forbidden Woods and got captured in there or something. Bosque Prohibido. Not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but whatever. Alright, so now the Deku Tree makes the Deku Leaf appear. The Deku Leaf is a very useful item in speedrunning this game because it allows you to fly. So we have to navigate up these Baba Buds to get to where it is. So I guess another piece of information that I should say is that this is being played on a real console. The inputs that you're seeing on the top left are being shown via a homebrew exploit that doesn't affect the game in any way that's even remotely significant, at least from what I know. Just in case anyone was wondering. And right here, we can actually skip this last Baba Bud by going right to the leaf platform. The collision for this branch right here is actually sort of a square. It's not like a circle, like the visible textures might make you believe. But you can barely get on the edge and get to the leaf a few seconds faster. So now we're out of Forest Haven, and we're going to go to Forbidden Woods. Thankfully, it's possible to just pretty much item slide from over here to the entrance of Forbidden Woods. You just charge it up for a little while, and then release, and you're in front. You can cleanly roll in. It skips having to go through all, like, the leafing and changing the wind nonsense. Alright, so now we're in Forbidden Woods, and we have bombs, so we're going to use those to kill the blue plants that block all these doors. And then for these Baba Buds, we're going to side hop and leaf into them because that's, I think, around 20 frames faster than jumping into them normally. And right here, I do a technique known as leaf pumping, which is basically putting away the leaf and taking it out as fast as possible. It's not just like pressing the leaf button, and it allows me to keep my height. So here I'm placing down 2 bombs to kill the blue enemy, because normally, if you place down 1 bomb and try to slash it, you're too close to the enemy for it to be vulnerable, but if you chain bombs together, then you can get far enough away to kill the blue enemy before like the bomb would normally detonate, so it saves like 2 seconds. So same thing's going to be done here. 2 bombs, spaced apart so that they blow each other up. And you don't need to use 2 bombs on this one because you can just walk across while letting a bomb detonate. And so in this next room, you'll notice that there are roots in this room, each of which are on a cycle. I want to make a really fast cycle for the roots on the other side, and I can do that by item sliding across and grabbing the ledge over here. And I barely make it onto here in time, and I can throw a bomb down to the blue enemy and use the leaf gust to blow the leaves off this pot while the bomb is blowing up the blue enemy. So doing a lot of stuff right there. And then pretty much just item slide across these rooms, skip most of the puzzles. So item sliding is so fast that you get past the tentacles before they know you're there. Now, it is actually possible to skip this small key, but it requires doing a trick that has a very low percentage chance of working, so it's not done in runs. So here we can use the leaf just to get to this platform without having to blow like the fan to make the rail come to us. And we can just get into that Baba Bud before Mothula attacks us. The P-Head actually right there almost got me before I jumped out of the Baba Bud, which would have been bad, because if he was right above, he would have knocked me all the way back down. So here's the Mothula mini-boss, the winged one. We can take off the wings pretty quickly by just sandwiching it between this tree and us and stabbing it repeatedly. And then just do some jump/spin attacks to finish it off. Pretty easy mini-boss. This gives us access to the boomerang, which is another item that we can perform item slides with and go very fast with. So now, just like with Dragon Roost Cavern, we're going to go get the boss key and then go to the boss. There is a boss key skip you can use for this dungeon, but like the small key skip that I mentioned earlier, it's very RNG heavy and has a very high likelihood of not working, and it only saves like a minute. And so here we're going to use an item slide to actually clip through the floor. I unfortunately failed it the first time because my angle was very slightly off. But we get it this next time. So we clip through the floor and appear near the door here. I was supposed to do a jump attack, but I was late pressing B, so it didn't happen. And more item slides. Jump down here. Normally you're supposed to cut down that flower and sort of use it as a boat to cross here, but we can just item slide and pull the leaf and fly over here. And then I'm going to get magic in the grass right here. And I'm actually going to pull out a bomb before entering this door, because that skips the animation of Link looking at the tentacles behind himself. And then from here we can item slide clip into the boss key, so we don't have to throw the boomerang around at the 5 switches to open up the gate. And you might be thinking, oh no, but you're trapped in here, what are you going to do? And the answer to that is always, we're going to save warp. As once again, save warping takes us back to the beginning of the dungeon, where we have the warp pot that we can use. Because the warp pot will put us back in the room with the big blue flower that we were supposed to cut down, but didn't. And from there we can make our way to the boss door. Since we have the boomerang, it's much faster to kill the blue enemies with the boomerang instead of using bombs. And once again, pull a bomb to skip Link from looking backwards at the tentacles. Right here I was supposed to pull a bomb before the Mothulas attacked me, but I for some reason did a 5th roll instead, like I just blanked out. It was fine though. Didn't lose too much time because of that. But if I did pull out a bomb, then the Mothulas would have detonated the bomb and would have died instantly. Alright, so now we're in the Kalademos boss room. We're going to item slide into the cutscene trigger, because that for some reason places Link really far back after the camera pans. But this is actually a good position to be in when the boss fight starts, so we don't have to move backwards for a few seconds. And just take out the boomerang and instantly start cutting down vines. Yeah, so the main goal of this fight is to cut down all the tentacles, and then Kalademos will reveal himself, and we can kill him. So we want to target 2 on the right side, and then target a bunch on the left side, so the boomerang goes around the back, and gets all those back tentacles. And then just do 1 or 2 more throws to get the ones in front, and we have access to Kalademos. And do more jump slash spin attacks, and Kalademos is dead. There is a trick you can do where if you bottle some forest water and pour it on Kalademos, it'll kill him instantly once he's vulnerable, but that's actually slower just due to how fast we can kill Kalademos with the sword, which is kind of unfortunate. If it was like a one-hit KO on any other boss, it would be faster than doing it the way that we do it in these runs, but Kalademos was already really fast. So it's unfortunately not useful. Anyway, Makar is saved, vroom vroom. And just like with Dragon Roost, we're going to skip this heart container because you don't need hearts to play this game. The only time you really get a heart container in this game is in 100% or in glitchless. It's safer to get one. But yeah, now we get brought back and we win Nehru's Pearl. Or, I'm sorry, not Nehru's Pearl, Furore's Pearl. What am I thinking? We get Nehru's Pearl in like a few minutes, though. Anyway, Makar's jumping animation right here is actually kind of interesting. If you leave the game on for a while and just let Makar jump there, he'll eventually stop jumping after like half an hour, because the game probably only tells him to jump a certain amount of times. And this is the infamous spam that some Twitch viewers like to do. To join in on this song. Now the Korax will go and plant trees all over the ocean. And so now we can save warp out of Forest Haven to get back to our... or back to, like, near where the King of Red Lions is quicker. Since we can item slide, though, we're not going to be taking the boat, because who takes boats these days? Right here I'm doing a setup to move Beetle a certain amount of units away so that I can item slide off of his barrel like this into the water. It's kind of precise though, so sometimes it doesn't really work out nicely. But I get it this time, and then I turn around and go to Outset. So now that we just got to Outset, this is where Nehru's Pearl is being held by Jaboon. But before we do that, we're going to do another item slide super swim. And we're going to go to Northern Triangle Isle this time to place Din's Pearl. Which is a bit of a ways away. I didn't get very good speed, so I had to wait a bit. So So this is the first pearl we place. We have to place all 3 pearls at their respective Triangle Island to open up the Tower of the Gods, which will then allow us to descend down to Hyrule. And so right here, I'm actually going to charge up an item slide against this island, and then I'm going to release it once I've charged up a lot of speed, so much so that I actually void out over the edge of the ocean. Because after a certain set of coordinates, the ocean just voids you out if you're out that far. And this will actually respawn us in a really good position on the King of Red Lions to get to Neru's Pearl with the current wind direction. And this text that we're getting right here is like the storyline text that the King of Red Lions gives us after we complete each job, but because we skip talking to him after each one, they just kind of stacked up on top of each other and all play out right there. So yeah, this is the whirlpool. We gotta go around to the other side. If we try to get into the side that we were near to begin with, then we'll eventually be too far away to shoot bombs at the wall. So you can clear this wall with just 3 bombs. If you hit a bomb near enough to where the wall is cracked, it'll just break in 1 bomb hit per crack, which is always the center of one of those swirls. Here's Jaboon carrying Neru's Pearl in his lamp. And with this, we have all 3 pearls now, so all that's left to do is to place the last 2. And then proceed into the 3rd dungeon, the Tower of the Gods. So once we're out here and we've cleared the text of the King of Red Lions, the fastest way to actually get back to the front of Outset to start another Super Swim is to save warp, because using the regular sail with this wind is just so slow. Save warping is about 3 seconds faster than sailing all the way around. So now we're gonna go to Eastern Triangle. Unfortunately, right there, I tried to go into the water too fast, and so I fell and lost all my speed. A little slower this time. So I passed Southern Triangle. I'm going to Eastern Triangle right now because I'm going to do another void out, or at least try to, over the edge of the ocean. And voiding out from Eastern is a shorter distance than voiding out from Southern, because Eastern you only have to cross 1 quadrant to get to the edge, whereas Southern you have to cross 2. So that's why I choose to place Ferori's Pearl second. Unfortunately, I think I missed this when I tried to do it. If I had been charging up speed for 1 more frame, it would have worked, but I didn't quite go far enough to void out. So instead what I had to do is I had to save warp, which thankfully provides the same effect, but is obviously much slower than simply voiding out. Because you can't, like, easily super swim off of the Triangle Islands. If you could, then we'd just swim from Triangle Island to Triangle Island, but it's unfortunately not that convenient. And then each time that I want to stop the boat, I actually pull out the Wind Waker to do so. because that immediately stops the boat's speed entirely. And then right here, I actually did what's known as super swim stalling, so that I stayed roughly in the same place while I had a lot of speed, so I could let the island load and then get up to it easily. So now we watch this cutscene. There are actually 3 separate versions of this cutscene, depending on which pearl you place last, which is kind of cool. It takes that into account. And Link gets sent flying for like the dozenth time or something. The pearls connect, we get the Triforce, and then the Tower of the Gods rises out of the ocean in epic fashion. Yeah, Tower of the Gods is the 3rd dungeon in this run. If you recall, there's actually a bell at the Tower of the Gods that we go and ring once we complete the dungeon, but that bell actually exists all the time on the overworld. Like, even at the start of the game, when the Tower of the Gods isn't raised up, the bell exists, which is kind of funny. Like, I don't know why they chose the bell out of all things to just keep on the overworld the whole time before the Tower of the Gods even exists. Although it's so high up that you wouldn't notice it, like in a casual playthrough. Anyway, this is also where we're gonna do our single wind change throughout the whole run. We're gonna change the wind to be northwest, which is very convenient for the rest of the run. Having east wind for the rest of the run would be really slow. So that's our one use of the Wind's Requiem, where we make our way into Tower of the Gods. Now, what's really annoying about sailing sometimes is that if you're close to an island, the King of Red Lions will just slow down a lot. Because I guess that's like a casual feature they added in to make coming into islands easier. Anyway, we're gonna cruise over to the right here. And we're going to grab on this pillar once the water level rises up. And we're actually going to skip the entirety of this first floor using a trick known as a ledge clip. So we can grab onto this pillar, and then we can use a bomb to push ourselves out of bounds. And then we can use the leaf to fly to the hallway that's behind the waterfall, leaf pumping there also, to conserve height. In this room, we have to place down 2 statues on 2 switches, and then place Link down on the 3rd switch. We can actually roll into this switch, so that when the cutscene begins, Link will roll to the first platform, and we'll be able to save a cycle getting onto it. And so, like Forbidden Woods, we're gonna do lots of item sliding here across rooms. Skipping all the platforming and stuff. And right here, there's one frame where I can do a jump attack to get closer to this statue. Because I need to pick up the statue and take it with me. And throw the statue past this corner to save a little bit of time, because the statue speed is very slow. I want to make sure that the statue moves in the optimal path around the inside corners. And then grab the statue. I can't item slide with the statue, so I'm forced to do the platforming on the way back. That's one of 3 statues that we have to get in this dungeon to proceed to the next level. This dungeon has 3 levels. There's the first floor, which we skipped. There's this floor, and then there's the top floor with the boss key and the boss. Unfortunately, there's no way that we can currently skip the second floor because you can only get to the 3rd floor via a warp. It's not just like some loading zone you can go into. This is the second song of the run, the command melody. We're actually not going to use the command melody until we get to the Earth Temple. We're going to skip all of the uses it has here, but we have to learn it so that we can proceed to the next room. Magic in that pot. That magic drop is consistent, which is nice. And slide past these bubbles. Slide over this gap. Sliding over this gap doesn't save much time because you're supposed to grapple across it anyway. Like I said, we're going to skip all of the command melody uses. The first one is, or the first intended one is in this room. They want Link to stand on the switch and walk the statue across a bridge that forms. But if we get close enough to the side of the void right here, we can actually just do a side hop around this pillar and skip having to do that. And from here we can throw the statue onto the switch, which opens up a barred door leading to the mini-boss room. So this is the Dark Nut, the mini-boss of Tower of the Gods. Now, what's interesting about the Dark Nuts is that if you do damage to their armor, but then knock off their armor from behind without breaking it, the damage from their armor will actually, like, go over to them. So I did a lot of damage to the armor, and then I knocked it off, and then it just takes one hit to actually kill the Dark Nut, which is really strange. Like, the value doesn't get reset if you hit the armor and then knock it off. So that helps there. And now we have the bow. Bow is another pretty useful item. Most of the items we get in dungeons are pretty useful in this game. Unlike the items that we got at the beginning. So here I want to make sure I kill these bubbles. I tried to shoot the switch, and then use the leaf to kill that bubble on the right, but somehow my arrow missed first time. So now I've successfully taken the second statue back. There's only one more statue left. Because we've used the leaf, we're a little lower on magic, but once again we have the magic drop in this pot right here. An item slide over to the next door. Now we have to go into this room to get a small key. And so, with these platforms, you can actually just leaf over and get to this platform on a good cycle. Get the key. And then you're going to void out to respawn back at the beginning of the room. And so right here, I get trolled pretty badly by Keys. Who are coming around and knocking me off the ladder. It happens twice, unfortunately, which is kind of a dumb amount of time to waste to something that's not in my control. Then we can just item slide across here, skip having to go on the scales. Get some magic. And then so the third statue is blocked by these lasers, but you can just item slide through lasers as if they don't exist. It's kind of funny. And then on the way back, we're going to purposely get damaged by these lasers, and so that then we can item slide through them again. Because you have brief invulnerability from damage if you're flashing red. So while we're flashing red, we're charging up an item slide against the lasers until it's we have a fast enough speed to go through them. So we want to kill this Wizrobe so he doesn't try to attack us again. I usually get hit by him, so it's not that big of a deal that I did. These keys are annoying though, so I killed this one with the boomerang. And we throw the last statue on, so there's enough weight on it, and we can bring our statue over. And that's the third statue. Now we've got all three statues, and they're gonna activate a pink warp, which we can use to get up to the third level of the Tower of the Gods. Item slide over a little bit. And then jump slashing into the pink warp is actually faster, because if you don't, then Link will do like a slow walking animation to the center before getting taken up. And then just like the previous lasers, we can go past these also. Except these lasers will disappear once we get the boss key, even though we haven't solved the puzzle to clear the lasers. We still have to go kill the Armos on the other side of the room, though, to unlock the barred door. Unfortunately, my movement was kind of bad here. I was trying to deal with these guys. I was a little slow. Alright, now we get to the one outside room of Tower of the Gods. And we're going to start an item slide going into a cutscene here, and Link will continue to walk forward and slide during the cutscene. Which will get us a good ways up during the cutscene, and then we'll just slide the rest of the way past these lasers. And we'll get an arrow and bomb refill, and be on our way to the boss of the Tower of the Gods, Ganon. Ganon is basically a recycled boss idea that's been present in a lot of Nintendo games, with the floating head and the floating hands. And like the hands having eyes, which are the weak point. It's a very original idea. So each of these eyes takes 2 shots to kill. Normally, there are some weird circumstances that can happen where they can take only 1 shot or more shots. And the same goes for the head. Each eye is just 2. I was able to get 3 shots in here, which was nice, but then I accidentally jumped off while attempting to cancel Godin's attack, and he pushed me back off while I was trying to climb up, which wasn't very nice of him. That unfortunately happened for the first cycle. Now, it is possible to to kill the hands instantly with a bomb. Like, if you detonate a bomb near their eye, it instantly, makes the eye, unusable by Godin. And then right here, I couldn't cancel Godin's attack by going under him because he was, too far over the edge. And then right here, I got 1 arrow shot, which did damage to both the eyes, which was nice. It's kind of like a rare occurrence to happen. And once again, Godin was way too far over the edge for me to cancel his attack. Yeah, that fight was not the greatest, but it's acceptable. There wasn't really anything much I could do about Godin controlling me trying to get back up. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Tower of the Gods. Now the second pink warp appears. And Godin snorts out a heart piece, which, again, we're going to skip all of. It's roll into the warp. And now we're going to go and we're going to grapple the bell, which is on top of Tower of the Gods. In the original game, you could grapple from below the ladder, but the reason that was is because there was no collision on the underside of this platform right here. So in the remake, they gave it collision, so you can't grapple the bell from underneath anymore, which is sad, even though it's only like 5 extra seconds or something. And thus the portal to Hyrule was opened up. The sea glowed a bright yellow. So now Link makes his weird faces as he tries to hold his breath. And he's like, wait a minute, I can breathe down here. And now we arrive at the ancient castle, where a battle apparently took place and then froze everything in time. It's a pretty small map. The castle on the outside looks very intricate, but there's not much to it. Besides this one courtyard, the inside area, the Master Sword Chamber, and the path to Ganon's Tower. We come in and we watch this cutscene. You can skip this cutscene, but it requires doing 2 pretty precise clips, which when combined only save like a few seconds, because you'd have to do the clip twice to skip this cutscene twice, since you come through the entrance to Hyrule Castle twice. Normally you're supposed to push some blocks to make this statue move, but we can just item slide through this statue. And we're in the Master Sword Chamber. And so a low 133 Master Sword time is pretty good. Generally, for my standards, I'd like just anything below a 134 is good. I have gotten times as low as like 132 though. So I could have been like a little more ahead than I am right now, but it wasn't like so bad. And now all the color returns to Hyrule. Though it had a little bit of red before, or like sepia tone. Now we have the Master Sword. The Master Sword does twice as much damage as the Hero's Sword, so it takes less hits to kill enemies now. So as you would expect, we item slide out of this room. We don't item slide like down the stairs because item sliding down slopes won't do much because Link will eventually go too fast that he'll be in the air and then drop down and lose all his speed. Anyway, after the Ganon fight, we finished with 3 arrows, which is the exact amount that we need for what we're going to do after Hyrule. And instead of fighting all these enemies, we're just going to clip out of bounds and get behind the loading zone down here. We can't just simply item slide past these lasers like we could in Tower of the Gods, because there's actually a solid wall behind the lasers. So it's not an option, but thankfully there's another way to do it. And from here we're going to save warp and get back to the front of Hyrule. Many people ask why we don't do the infamous barrier skip right there, because it's right there. The reason for that, I'll explain in detail more later, but if we were to do barrier skip right now, the game would crash while we try to do what we want to do in Ganon's Tower. So we leave barrier skip for the second trip down to Hyrule, which is pretty shortly after this. Now we come to the next, or pretty much the last sailing section of the game. Sailing to the Cyclos, or the Cyclone, which Cyclos controls near Northern Triangle Island. We need to shoot him down with 3 arrows so that we can learn the Ballad of Gales, which is very useful for warping around the ocean. Because even though we have item sliding and super swimming, you can't item slide, or excuse me, you can't super swim off of every single island and get into the water. Because some islands don't have slopes that descend into the water. So we're sail pumping along. So because I only have 3 arrows, I can't miss any of my shots, but thankfully it's not that hard to hit Cyclos. The bow does get, like, sort of weird when trying to aim at Cyclos due to all the wind, but it's not that hard to control for the most part. So 1, 2, 3, and he calms down. The Ballad of Gales isn't technically required for the category, but it makes it much faster. The only song we're technically required to learn for the category is the command melody. So now we're going to use the Ballad of Gales right away to go to Windfall Island, where we're going to use it to super swim all the way to Forsaken Fortress again. Windfall is generally like the spot where most of the super swims will happen. So we can use the bow this time to item slide, and then pull out a bomb to cancel being in first person. And then I was going too fast here, so just like with Windfall earlier, I had to sort of stall my swim so that I wouldn't sploosh in the water and lose all my speed. And then we can clip into Forsaken Fortress underwater. And then, due to this cutscene right here being an air trigger, we get warped up when we touch it, which is nice, and allows us to fight Phantom Ganon. We're going to avoid Phantom Ganon's first attack and make our way over here to these spikes. And luckily we got Phantom Ganon to spawn behind us, which is the good RNG in this fight. The bad RNG has him spawn in the air and move around a little bit. I missed hitting him this second time, but because I was getting damaged by the spikes, I was actually like invincible for a short period of time, so Phantom Ganon's attack didn't do anything. The reason I'm getting damaged is so that I can do a glitch later on with the Helmrock King that will allow me to skip him, which only works easily if I have a heart and a half or less of health, because when Link has less than a heart and a half of health, he goes into like his tired, heavy breathing animation, which is necessary for what we want to do. Anyway, here's the Skull Hammer. Yeah, it's a kind of useful item. We're not going to use it for very much. And so here we're just going to pretty much item slide all the way up to the top of Forsaken Fortress. The game's going to lag a lot, like right here, because there are multiple bomb explosions going off, like to the side of us. And so the Skull Hammer is a nice replacement for the bombs when taking out an item to stop the item slide speed from charging, because in first-person mode, when you're item sliding, you continue to build up speed as long as you're in first-person mode, but when you know you have enough speed, you can take out the Skull Hammer or a bomb to stop. Also, a mini-blend just randomly fell from the sky right there, so that was cool. And I missed the peg by a little bit and tried to jump attack it. And yeah, now we can go and try to save our sister for a second time. Except this time we're actually going to make progress in walking up to the cell where she's kept, or being stumped by a door. Tetra realizes Link now has the Master Sword. She's like, where did you get that? I want a sword like that. Mine sucks. And yay, our sister's rescued, except we're gonna just leave her with the pirates, because they're trustworthy people. And instead, we're gonna go and fight a giant bird. Because, I mean, it's a Zelda game, you know? Logic is just thrown out the window, especially in speedruns. We get the cinematic approach of the Helmarok King as water now somehow fills the map. I don't know what kind of plumbing system they use, but it's pretty good if it can get water all the way up here. So now, to begin the fight, normally you have to run up this giant spiral ramp, but thankfully we have the ability to item slide, so we're just going to slide all the way up it. And Link's facial expression right now is pretty good. He's just, like, tired of all this. He's like, when do I get to go and actually spend quality time with my sister? We can get behind the Helmarok King and pull out the Wind Waker to stop our speed. This clip right there that we did through the floor is only possible with the heart and a half or less of health. Be easy. You can do a roll clip there, but obviously that's frame perfect, and if you can not waste time to not do a frame perfect trick, then why not do that? And then just item slide around to the door and open it up. Ganondorf says that we're not able to save the world unless we have a sword that sparkles, because right now our sword doesn't sparkle. That's very unfortunate for us. Yeah, so one thing that's interesting about this cutscene is that if you were to come in here, say, like without the Master Sword or without a shield, the game would actually, like, give Link the Master Sword, and it would give him the Hero Shield and the Hero's Clothes if he came in without those items. There are a few other cutscenes in the game that do that, so it's like kind of interesting that they do that. Like, they just give you the items that Link has during the cutscene, and you get to keep them afterwards, with the exception of the Hero's Clothes. You don't get to keep the Hero's Clothes if you come in without them during this cutscene. So now we realize that Tetra secretly has the Triforce of Wisdom and is Princess Zelda. What a shocker. It's almost like this story convention has been used before. Oh wait, it has. Dang. Yeah, oh well. Now Valoo burns the whole thing down. But Ganondorf escapes. Somehow. Now we descend down into Hyrule for the second time. Only a few more long cutscenes to go through. So, it is actually possible to get to this iteration of Hyrule early, but that's kind of pointless for this category since we need to beat Tower of the Gods anyway, as this is the All Dungeons category. But if we did come here early, like, it would still be the Sepia tone because we wouldn't have pulled the Master Sword. So now I have to lead Tetra into the Master Sword chamber. Now, if we're fast enough here with our sword pull, we can do a jump slash into this cutscene to get more distance. And then jump attack into this cutscene trigger right here. I'm kind of sad that we have to watch this cutscene in this category because when I originally went through this category, I thought we could skip it until I realized that this is a cutscene that you have to watch if you want to get back to the surface of the ocean. Otherwise, you can't get back into the King of Red Lions and return to the surface. But this cutscene is also one of the flags, which is required if you were to break the barrier around Hyrule Castle normally. To break the barrier around Hyrule Castle, the flags are pulling the Master Sword in Hyrule 1, watching this cutscene, watching the cutscene that we just previously watched with the King of Red Lions talking through the Gossip Stone, having the Triforce, and defeating the mighty Darknuts in the third iteration of Hyrule before you're allowed to break the barrier. Once you do all of those things, then you can break the barrier, as long as you also have the fully powered up Master Sword from Wind Temple. It's kind of like crazy that they made all these flags for breaking the barrier. Even though, like, it's not really necessary to do all that in normal gameplay. Hey Zelda, how you doing? Hey, look, it's that symbol. Like I've seen that symbol in other places before, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe I'll remember it later. Cue obligatory comments about Zelda's skin color changing that people always make. How she loses her personality. And of how, for some reason, she gets makeup. Because in case none of you knew, the Triforce of Wisdom also comes with foundation, eyeshadow, eyeliner, and blush, just in case you were unaware. And you are required to use it if you obtain the Triforce of Wisdom. The full Triforce of Wisdom, that is. That's why Zelda only became all these colors when the Triforce fused together. Anyway, back to the run. Yeah, so since this cutscene's almost over, after this cutscene we're going to go and do the infamous barrier skip, which is the speedrunning trick that's been sought after by many speedrunners for nearly a decade in this game. Now, it's kind of funny, you can only do barrier skip in the HD version of the game. You still can't do it in the original, although I wouldn't be surprised if it was figured out how to do it in the original soon. Instead of going back out to the King of Red Lions, we're just gonna item slide over to the exit. And so for the first part of barrier skip, we actually have to get past the knockback barrier, which is the visible part that knocks Link back. And the way we do this is by pulling out the Wind Waker, or any cutscene item for that matter, on the very last frame of animation, for the red flashing animation. Right here I turn off my gyro controls so that I can line up properly for the barrier skip. Because you need a very precise angle for this skip to work properly. And then from here I charge up an item slide, I hold ZL so that I go to the right, and then once I hit the correct position, we go through. And yeah, so sorry if I ruined anyone's childhood, but that's necessary to go fast. Yeah, so this allows us to get to Ganon's Tower early, which is useful for a whole number of reasons. The main reason it's useful in this category is because we can open up the portal between Ganon's Tower and Forsaken Fortress 2, and use that to get back to Ganon's Tower after we beat the last temple, or the last dungeon, and so we can skip having to do the whole Triforce sequence. And so right here I'm going to try to item slide to the top of this door. I was a little early, though, with my release of the item slide, so I didn't go far enough to reach the ledge on top of the door, but I corrected my mistake this time and charged up for longer to make sure I'd reach it. And from here we're going to do a ledge clip to skip these trials and ruin people's childhoods for a second time. So there you go. Yeah, that skip saves around 10 minutes, and barrier skip saves around 40 minutes, which is nice. And I had a little trouble opening that door, which is... sometimes it can be hard to control item slides when you have lots of speed. And so here we already know the order that we need to hit these switches in. And jumping in the water doesn't do anything, but it's like, why not? Because once this cutscene ends, Link gets warped back up to the top anyway. And the King of Red Lions has done barrier skip also. Very nice. And then we're going to talk to him again because clearing this text box is what allows you to get inside the King of Red Lions. But we're not quite done with Ganon's Tower yet. Right now, after this, we're going to go get the light arrows, which are not supposed to be obtainable until you've already gone through most of the game, as they are incredibly overpowered, but that's why they're useful for this category. So now we start the Phantom Ganon maze. Thankfully, this maze is the exact same pattern every single time. So you can just memorize it and go through the doors. Back, left, forward, left, right, forward is basically how I memorize it. And once again, we're going to pull a bomb to skip Link's turning back animation. Right here, I actually got pretty bad luck with the Phantom Ganon attack. The best luck would be if Phantom Ganon spawns with clones all around you, because during that attack pattern, like the real Phantom Ganon is always the one directly behind you, so you just turn around and slash. Unfortunately, we didn't get that, so we lost some time, though. But now we got the light arrows. And so getting the light arrows here, besides the light arrows being incredibly overpowered, the light arrows actually give us the entire set of elemental arrows to use for this game. So now we have the fire arrows, the ice arrows, and the light arrows, which means we don't have to watch the Queen Fairy cutscene after Forsaken Fortress 2 and Hyrule 2. And now we're gonna just phase Phantom Ganon out of existence, as who needs him. And we use his sword to break the wall. And get to the final staircase. So there are a lot of enemies here, but because we have light arrows, we can just shoot all of them. And we item slide between them, because item sliding is fast. Here we can shoot 2 with 1 light arrow, so we don't have to waste as much magic, and again right here. So you might be wondering why we're going all the way up here, if this is on our way to Ganon, because currently after this door all you have is Puppet Ganon and Ganon. And the reason for that is because the game's actually going to equip us out with some new stuff upon entering this cutscene, because right now we have the Hero Shield and the Master Sword, but when we enter this door, the game's going to equip us out with the Mirror Shield and the fully charged up Master Sword, as if we've already been to Earth and Wind Temple. And this is useful because having the Mirror Shield means that we can just kind of casually walk past the entire first half of Earth Temple. And having the fully powered up Master Sword, while not doing any extra damage compared to the base Master Sword, it'll set some interesting flags in Wind Temple, which we'll see later. Also, Zelda somehow did barrier skip and ended up in bed with Ganon. So yeah, that happened. I don't know how she did barrier skip. She must be really good at this game. But yeah, so the only reason that we came to Phantom Ganon, or sorry, not Phantom Ganon, to Puppet Ganon, is so that we could get the Mirror Shield and fully charged up Master Sword. Because this is like another one of those cutscenes where the game just gives Link items, like I mentioned earlier, except this time it's actually useful to us. And the reason that we couldn't do barrier skip in the first time we came to Hyrule is because if we did do that, then this cutscene right here would have crashed due to what are known as animation sets. Basically, when you start the game, you have a single set of animations which are used for cutscenes in the first half, which is everything between the beginning and Forsaken Fortress 2. And then once you enter the Helmarok loading zone at Forsaken Fortress 2, the animation sets switch, and all the animation sets for the second half of the game are loaded up, and they can play. So if we were to activate this cutscene with the first animation set of the game without going to fight the Helmarok King, the game would have crashed due to it trying to assert that we have the right set, but us not having the right set. So now we're gonna save warp out of Puppet Ganon. God, Phantom Ganon and Puppet Ganon. What's the difference? But yeah, so we're not gonna fight Puppet Ganon now. We could if we wanted to, but magic routing works much better if we leave him now, because usually when you fight Puppet Ganon, you don't end up with very much magic at the end, and having magic for what we're gonna do next is pretty helpful. So instead we're going to fight him later. So now the warp puts us back at Forsaken Fortress 2. Now we're going to play the Ballad of Gales to get out. You'll notice that it turned nighttime pretty much immediately, because right now the game still thinks this is Forsaken Fortress 2. That's going to change when we warp to Tower of the Gods, however, because at the Tower of the Gods there's a text trigger that we have to hit, which basically is what tells the game that the player has been to Hyrule 2 and to progress, like, the story of the game. If we didn't hit this trigger, then we wouldn't be able to get the Sage of the Earth Temple Medley to come with us to Earth Temple, because she wouldn't be out on the overworld like we need her to be. yeah, we just worked here to, to go through this text, and now we're done. And next up, we're going to go to Windfall so that we can super swim out to Fire Mountain. And Fire Mountain is where the power bracelets are. And we need the power bracelets to get into Earth Temple and to be able to lift up Jalhalla, who's the boss of the Earth Temple. If you didn't need those two, you could skip the power bracelets, but sadly they're required. So super swimming to Fire Mountain is kind of interesting. Ideally, I would have like splooshed on the inside of Fire Mountain and then avoided out on the lava, but I splooshed right before getting in there, so instead I had to save warp near the edge to get the King of Red Lions back so I could actually shoot an ice arrow up at the mountain. We shoot the mountain, now we have 5 minutes to go get the power bracelets, which is much more than enough time. We can use the leaf to avoid having to splash in the water and climb up the ledge. Take out the skull hammer to use for some jump slashes up here, because taking out the sword would have resulted in Link slashing his sword. It's much smoother to take up the skull hammer. And then we can just skip this sidle gap by using the leaf. And we're also going to use the leaf right before, or when we drop into the hole, because that'll load the next area much quicker than falling in. And then right here we can item slide clip, just through the side right here. And light arrows are useful right here because we can kill the magtails with them. So we kill one magtail with it, and then the other one we parry while the first one is dying. We don't want to waste too much magic with the light arrows, because the light arrows are very magic consuming. Gonna save warp out. Once again, we're gonna warp to Windfall so that we can start our next super swim, except this time we're gonna go to the Earth Temple at Headstone Isle. Because now that we have the power bracelets, we can remove the giant headstone that's in front of it. This super swim that we're about to do is kind of tricky because, like, the opening to Headstone Isle is on the south part of the quadrant, but we're coming in from the north, so we have to, like, go through it or go past it, and then stall for a little bit until it loads, and then release our speed in the correct direction to get onto it. We're gonna charge up, then swim across the ocean again. It's right here. I'm pausing to see to make sure that my speed is going in the correct direction. Pull out the Wind Waker to stop all my speed so that I don't, like, just randomly clip through the island or, like, void out off the map or anything. And now we're gonna learn the Earth God's Lyric. We have to learn to get into the Earth Temple. Even though, like, we can swim across the entire map, cross huge, like, gaps, and clip through some things, we still can't get past these song stones to get into Earth and to Wind Temple early. Unfortunately, getting into Earth or Wind Temple early isn't actually very helpful, because if you were to go to Earth or Wind Temple early by clipping past these stones, then Medley or Makar would not appear in the Earth or Wind Temple, and you need your companions to get through the temple. There's no way to bypass that in this game. You only need them for a few rooms, though, that are required. So yeah, that's also kind of unfortunate for this category. Because Medley you need in the second room. That's the only time you ever need her in this category in the Earth Temple. But we bring her along because she helps speed things up later, even though you technically don't need her. But the trigger for actually making Medley and Makar appear in the Wind and Earth Temple is them physically being dropped into the loading zone, which happens in the cutscene right before you enter the temple. Alright, so here we can actually super swim off of Headstone instead of having to warp back to Windfall. We're going to slowly go down. Now we're going to go to Ice Ring Isle. And Ice Ring Isle we can just climb up onto and freeze ourselves. to void out and respawn in the King of Red Lions right next to the island. The wind direction is good enough for us to get to the island rather quickly. Shoot it with a fire arrow. And we're actually going to shoot the ice off of this chest in front of us. We're not actually going to open the chest, but we're going to use the chest to get up higher so we can jump to the ledge to the right of it. And then use the leaf to skip some platforms. And get into the aisle. Jump slashing up the stairs. And then we can just item slide all the way to the Iron Boots chest. It's pretty nice. And once again, do a save warp to get out. And now, since we have the Earth God's Lyric from earlier, we can go play it for Medley on Dragon Roost Island. And so another thing about warping with the Ballad of Gales is that, like, if we were to warp to the Mother and Child Isles cutscene with the Fairy Queen, that would actually make the run unfinishable, because if you do that, you get the fire and ice arrows, and you'd think, like, why is that a problem? You already had the fire and ice arrows. But the problem with this is that if you get, like, the standalone fire and ice arrows, it actually replaces, like, the fire, ice, and light arrows as a single item. So, like, the light arrows essentially disappear. And if you don't have light arrows, you can't beat Puppet Ganon, so you can't finish the run. And so thankfully there's a consistent full magic drop in those pots right there. We can use some jumps to skip having to climb this ladder. Link's going to contemplate shooting Medley for a moment right here in the background. And before he decides, no, I might need her in the Earth Temple, so let's go talk to her. Yeah, Medley has lots of text and a pretty long cutscene. We have a pretty beautiful cutscene right here, in my opinion. The music during it is just, like, perfect. Even though I can't hear the music while I'm recording this, so I'm sad. But I won't talk because I like this cutscene. Alright, cutscene's over. So even though in that cutscene you saw the base Master Sword, we still have the fully charged up Master Sword. That hasn't changed. The game hasn't taken it away from us or anything. Link and Medley have mysteriously disappeared, revealing that they're actually just on the King of Red Lions. And so, of course, we're not going to do any sailing. We're going to super swim off of Dragon Roost. Right now, we're going to go to Gale Isle, which is where the Wind Temple is located. And my positioning was kind of weird right there, so I had to roll a bit with the iron boots. It is possible to break that, like, octo howling stone without the iron boots, but we have the iron boots, so we may as well just use them. And this is where we learn the Wind God's aria. So you can learn the Wind God's aria before going to Earth Temple, but Makar won't be playing his song at Forest Haven until you beat the Earth Temple. Anyway, this is where we meet the Sage of the Wind. Frido is actually his name in Spanish, which is kind of funny. Although it's with a D, not a T. In the orange text right there. So thankfully this cutscene's not too long. And then we can item slide back out backwards. Now we can also item slide off of Gale Isle, as long as the water level is high enough. And thankfully it was right there. And right here, I'm actually holding ESS down so that my speed for the Super Swim doesn't decrease as much as it would if I wasn't holding anything. It allows me to get to Earth Temple very slightly faster. And because there's like a giant trigger around Earth Temple now, it's not that hard to hit. We don't have to go in from the south side. So now we're told to make sure to protect each other as we go through the temple. Now we play the song for Medley. We have to be close enough, though. And you'll know that you're close enough because Medley will kind of disappear behind Link. And the little jingle will play. Oh, huh, that's weird. Medley's missing. I wonder where she went. Usually she's supposed to be there. Oh, there she is. That's weird. I wonder why she's there. Actually, though, you can... There's like a frame in between those two separate cutscenes of playing the Wind Waker. And, like, Medley playing her part of the song. And if you roll during that part to change your direction, the way Medley is programmed is she's programmed to, like, be a certain amount of units in front of Link, whichever direction he's facing, so that changes her position. And so also right there, you saw Medley fall into the Earth Temple. That right there is the trigger that allows Medley to appear in the Earth Temple. She's just not in here by default, which is kind of weird. Anyway, we're going to throw Medley off to the right. We're going to item slide up these stairs. And we're going to item slide onto... Or we're going to try to item slide onto this platform right here. Unfortunately, I failed this the first time because my angle was bad. To item slide back up the stairs and do it again. This time I got a good angle, though, so... Successfully grab the edge. And now we play the command melody. So that we can fly Medley up to the second platform to push down the second switch and open the door. Now we bring her through the door with us. When attacks are slow, so I don't worry about him. And here we're going to see the light arrows put to use. We can kill the red and green shoes with just regular sword slashes, but we can kill the purple shoes either by shining light on them, or by killing them with light arrows. And thankfully there are lots of magic drops in this room, so we can refill magic even though we're using light arrows. So here, normally you'd push down a skullhammer peg to open a door and progress through the temple to get the mirror shield. But we already have the mirror shield, so we're just gonna open up this statue and proceed down to the second half. So we solved this puzzle normally, since it's pretty much like the safest and fastest way of doing it. All the other uses of Medley that we're going to do in this temple are actually skippable, but using Medley is just simply faster for pretty much all of them. So there's no use in skipping Medley. Unless we could skip her through the entire temple, then we'd obviously use all of them. Once again, side hopping while carrying something is faster if you're going in a straight line. We can fly across with Medley here, as the speed while flying with Medley is slightly higher than that of walking. And by some miracle, you will always avoid the bubbles when you do that, if you do it quickly. The bubbles will never catch you. And we can also call Medley, and she'll come through doors with us, which is useful, so we don't have to lift her above our head every time. Okay, break the elephant statue. Normally the game wants you to go to the right to get a small key, but thankfully we're going to be able to skip that small key. So here we pick up Medley to fly over the gap, and then we're going to throw her to the right so that she's near the grating that separates this room from the other one. We're going to shoot that, like, flag with a fire arrow so it reveals an alcove, and we're going to use the corner of that alcove to roll clip out of, so we can get out of bounds. And so we're going to put Medley next to the grating. We're going to item slide to the little alcove. We roll clip through out of bounds, use the leaf, and we're going to sort of fly in between the collision of this grating. We're going to pick up Medley and we're going to go to the other room. And that's how you skip the small key. And then right here, if we throw Medley forward and then hold out our shield, we get the reflection off of her, so that we don't have to use the command melody. And then there's a free magic drop in this coffin right here to get. And here I pick up Medley to bring her to the Songstone. And because we're in a cutscene, Link is continuously flashing red, which is kind of silly. Alright, so now we've progressed through most of the temple, having skipped the first half. And all that's left is to do the Earth Temple boss key skip. And this is the one dungeon that we do a boss key skip in this run. There are other boss key skips we can do for other dungeons, but they require doing tricks that have very low success rates and only save like a minute or so, so it's not really worth it. Alright, so anyway, here we're going to do a partial ledge clip, which will allow us to roll clip through this wall, known as a bomb roll clip. And it gives us enough height so that we can leaf around this room and get to the loading zone behind the door. Now we've reached the Jalhalla boss room. Those are like, whoa, that guy's scary. Let's all form together so we can be big and slam him or something. Alright, so I actually have enough magic to shoot 3 light arrows right now, but I didn't think I had enough magic to do that, so I thought I only had enough for 2. So right here I use a strat with the skull hammer to quickly shine light on Jalhalla. Throw him into one of the spiked columns. And here I'm going to throw around bombs so that I can kill the pose efficiently. I accidentally picked up a skull right there, so I couldn't quick spin those 2, but the bombs did all the work for me, so it was fine. And then here I'm going to shoot Jalhalla with a light arrow, Valhalla is the one boss that can interact with light arrows in a way that's good for the run. They make him instantly solid, which is a weird interaction, considering that like light arrows are never normally supposed to be used on Valhalla. So it's interesting that that happens. And then once again, for the third cycle, again, the game expects you to beat 5 pose in each cycle. And 5 is sort of like the limit the game tries to set for you. But what you can actually do is you can kill more than 5 pose if you kill the 5th one and the rest of them all on the same frame. So theoretically, you could do a single cycle Valhalla fight if you manage to kill 4 pose, and then kill the last 11 all on the same frame. Which, if someone is able to do that, I will be impressed for the rest of my life at you. Someone wants to challenge me on that statement. Because even like with tassing, it's virtually impossible to do. Like getting 2 cycles for the original Wind Waker tool-assisted speedrun was hard enough. Now for Shrog. Yeah, that's it for Earth Temple. The only mistake we had in here really was just accidentally failing the item slide in the second room once. So it was a fairly good Earth Temple. Earth Temple is generally the hardest one for me as a runner to get through without making like serious mistakes, so I was very glad with that performance of it. Also, right now, we entered into this portal with the fully charged Master Sword, but now that like this cutscene is playing, we're actually going to get out of this cutscene with the half-charged Master Sword, as if we'd just beaten Earth Temple, because we did just beat Earth Temple. Which is kind of funny, because in a way it's like we're downgrading the Master Sword. Which just like in itself is kind of ironic. But downgrading the Master Sword is actually very important for the run to work out, because if that didn't happen, then Makar would not be at Forest Haven playing his song if we didn't downgrade the Master Sword. Because the trigger for Makar, like, being in his cave is having the half-charged Master Sword, so it's very nice that the game does this for us. Just one of the really convenient things about this run that makes it all come together nicely. So yay, our sword is weaker, and it doesn't have a sparkle to it anymore. Now we get warped out. And like earlier, we're gonna super swim out to Forest Haven. We could use the Ballad of Gales to go to Forest Haven because that is one of the warp spots, but doing that is kind of slow. And super swimming here is around 15 or so seconds faster. So I had to pause right here to make sure I didn't go too far. Thankfully, Beetle provides a nice, like, get up onto the island without having to grab the edge. And thankfully I got enough magic in the grass right there for what I needed in Wind Temple. Now we're gonna go get Makar. Vroom vroom. So unlike Medley, Makar has very fast text and a pretty short cutscene, which is very nice. I would kind of wish they'd done that with Medley. They can keep the cutscene, but I would have wished that they'd made her text really fast. But I guess, like, by now, once you've done one sage, they're like, you don't need to know all the details of the second sage or something. So here we got Makar playing with Frito. Conducting is over. We take a bow, the audience claps. Woohoo, yahaha. Only 899 more Koroks to go. And so we could super swim off of Forest Haven, but to do that we'd have to maneuver out the King of Red Lions. And then we'd have to make sure Beetle's at like the correct position. And since we already spawn in the King of Red Lions, just using the Ballad of Gales is much more feasible to go to Windfall. Especially since the Gale Isle, the quadrant where we need to go to, or super swim to, is right above Windfall, so it's a much shorter super swim from Windfall. Now into the water, turn around, go to the temple. Once again, using the mini-map on the gamepad for easy maneuvering around the ocean. There are some quadrants around the ocean that you want to avoid generally because they're like reload quadrants, and they can kill all your speed if you go through them too fast. Although usually for most super swims that isn't a problem. Anyway, into the Wind Temple. Oh, picking up Makar and throwing him is faster because Makar walks really slowly. He like has a flat tire or something. And once again, like a medley, we can adjust Makar's position by rolling in between the cutscenes. You can also like place him inside the Song Stone, and it like breaks to reveal him if you hold down when you roll. Anyway, here we go. Templo del Viento. Don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but whatever. I'll stop pronouncing things in Spanish that may or may not be correct. Alright, so right here, I call Makar, and then I attempt to go through this door. For some reason, Makar didn't follow me. I don't really know why that happened. I didn't realize that until I failed the item slide and was like, wait a minute, Makar didn't follow me. So I went back and I called him again. I was like, come on, buddy, let's go. Then he followed me, thankfully. Yeah, so we can just item slide through the wind across this room, and Makar will follow us through this door. We'll side hop across this room. I have to wait for the blade, though. Plant seeds. This is like, this room and the next room are the two rooms that you can't get through without Makar and the command melody. So that's why those two items are like required to get through to Wind Temple to get the hook shot. Once you get past this room that we're in right here, you can pretty much skip Makar the entire rest of the way. Makar gets captured and then we never see him again. He remains in jail forever. And goodbye, Makar. Alright, so now we're going to use a fire arrow to shoot off the top of this warp pot right here, so that it opens up and we can get to it later, because there's an iron boot switch up there that we need to get to open up the big circular floor to get down to the hookshot room. And right here, I got pretty unlucky with the placement of this Floor Master, because he immediately grabs me and takes me back, which unfortunately wasted about like 20 or so seconds, which I was not too happy about. I have to go back. Thankfully, the next time the Floor Master placement wasn't bad and he didn't capture me. That was like one of the unlucky points of this run. And now we're just gonna item slide across. We're gonna kill these pea hats, or just this one. And then we're gonna item slide to this door, and we're gonna home buffer here so that I can go perfectly straight forward out of the jump, and so that I can grab the top of the door. And when Link grabs these door frames, he's actually far enough through that we can just do a roll clip to get through them and out of bounds. And that allows us to get behind this Songstone, where there's a tiny piece of land we can be on, which then we can open the door behind the Songstone. And light arrows make this fight really easy. Just shoot some light arrows. And right there, I wanted to get some, like, one of the arrow drops, but I missed and was like, oh well. Because I still need to fight Puppet Ganon right at the end of the run, so I need, or I'd like to have more arrows. Anyway, this allows us to get the boss key before getting the hook shot, actually, which is kind of like out of order, which is cool. We have to save warp here. If we were to go out the door, we would actually walk into the Songstone forever and like soft lock because Link would never get past it. Also, another thing about this save warp is that the game is actually going to reimburse the fully charged Master Sword to us right now. So when, like, I slash this grass right here for magic, you'll see it sparkles, which means that we have the fully powered up Master Sword again. So it only stays with us until we save and quit the game and then reload it. In regards to the half-charged Master Sword. Anyway, we get full magic. I accidentally did a jump attack. I was trying to side hop onto this switch and then side hop off. And we can jump down, use the leaf, and just like the previous door, we can roll clip on top of this door that leads to the hookshot fight. I was a frame early though, so I didn't do the roll, because you only have one frame to do the roll out of Link's climbing up animation. And then using the leaf activates the loading zone in the air. Now we get to the orange Wizrobe fight, which once again is turned into a complete joke by the use of light arrows. The Wizrobe spawns a Dark Nut and another Wizrobe. Generally, the Dark Nut obviously stays on the ground, so he's an easy target. If the Wizrobes were to spawn on the ground, I would kill them with a jump/spin attack. But because they spawn in the air, I kill them with light arrows instead. And then I get these 2 arrow drops, so I have enough arrows for Puppet Ganon. Unfortunately, because the Floor Master grabbed me, I lost a lot of time on this segment. But I wasn't too concerned with it, since performance-wise, I feel like I did okay on this segment, since the Floor Master doesn't affect my performance as a runner. It just loses time, like with the total time. And then we can item slide back across. I was interested in this orb because I knew it would contain magic, since the Wizrobe dropped it. And I went forward with my item slide a little early right there. Right here we're going to do a trick known as a bomb boost, where we're basically just going to use the explosion of a bomb during a jump attack to get extra height and get up past these spikes to this small key. Normally you'd use this small key to open up the hookshot room, but because we roll clip through that door, we don't need to unlock it. Instead we can use the small key on the upcoming door, which is below us. Because right here we're going to do a weird clip, where if we hookshot at a precise spot on that target, we can clip through the wall and get through, and use the small key. So here we just need to step down on an Iron Boots switch. We don't need to defeat any of these enemies. Defeating the enemies will result in getting a treasure chart, which obviously is not necessary. Just item slide all the way across this room. And kind of the same thing with this room. We can actually get on top of this Songstone right here and item slide on top of it to clip through it. And then get magic, so we have full magic during the Puppet Ganon fight. God, I keep on wanting to say Phantom Ganon, but it's not Phantom Ganon. Alright, now this is probably the most interesting room in the entire run, because Makar is actually here, somehow. He did boss key skip and beat us and freed himself from prison, so somehow he's a better speedrunner than any of us are, because he knows the secrets to boss key skip for this dungeon. And he's going to be playing some music for us, just like he normally does. Unfortunately, though, he's going to kind of get swallowed by the sand. So, yeah, Rip Makar has fallen all the way down. But he'll continue to play music, because he's a strong man. Or strong onion or something, I don't know. And Makar's music is... Makar's actually going to be like a rude musician during this fight. Mulgara's theme is going to try to play, but Makar is going to not approve of that and swiftly cut it off during certain points. So the music starts out normally, before Makar's theme starts to take over. Then it sort of jumps back to being normal Molgera music, which is kind of strange. The reason this is happening is because we came into this room with the fully charged Master Sword, and because we did that, the game thinks that we must have already beaten Wind Temple, so it places Makar, like, playing his music. And now Makar's music just kind of fully takes over the music, so no Chica Chica for us while we're fighting Molgera. It makes the fight, like, much less intense and makes it feel kind of casual. So right here I'm actually gonna run around and try to be near Molgera when she attempts to attack me so that she'll go back into the sand quicker. And thus we'll start the next few cycles quicker. And obviously we want to avoid the babies. Thankfully you don't have to target Molgera's tongue that would shot it, you can just aim at it. And then I go into first person so that I avoid looking at the babies who sometimes make lag happen because of all their particle effects. And that cycle was really good. Molgera came down pretty quickly. You can't snipe Molgera's tongue in the air like you could in the original game, which kind of sucks. But that's what we gotta do. And that's it for Molgera. Like, we don't even get the victory theme, because Makar's music just completely takes over. Kind of ironically, though, in the original game, the Japanese or PAL versions, you could get a glitch that would crash the game if the music for the Molgera victory theme didn't play. Like, the game would be fine until you stepped into the warp portal, at which point it would crash in the original game. So even though we didn't hear the victory theme, we're not going to crash, thankfully. That was patched in the HD version, which is very nice. And we're going to skip this heart container, because we don't need heart containers. And because we also came into this room with a fully charged Master Sword, the game thinks that we must have already watched the Wind Temple cutscene already. So instead of watching Makar play his song again, we're just saying to get warped right outside and skip the Wind Temple cutscene. Which is, again, very nice. So that's it for Wind Temple. So now we've beaten all the 5 temples, the 5 main temples, and we're ready to go fight Ganon. Of course, the king has other plans, and he's like, hey buddy, we need to go find the magical Dorito so we can get down to Hyrule. And Link's like, alright, and then he walks away. And proceeds to be Michael Phelps all the way back to Forsaken Fortress, where the portal to Ganon's tower is, that we're gonna take back. So using the same clip that we did earlier, we can get into the fortress, and then we're actually gonna play this cutscene right here, which normally plays during your second visit to Forsaken Fortress. But because we can play it now, it'll actually spawn the King of Red Lions right here, and we won't have to save warp or go in and out of a loading zone to make him appear. That's very fast, and then we just sail back into the Dark Portal. Equip the bow, because we need light arrows to fight Puppet Ganon. And then we can just item slide up this staircase like no one's business. Alright, so this is the Puppet Ganon fight. Each phase requires 3 snipes of the tails, so first phase, you get 1 snipe. The first snipe is pretty easy. These next 2 snipes, I was very happy that I got both of them really fast, because they're usually pretty hard to anticipate. Just due to like all the factors that go into how the tail moves. So that was a really good phase right there for me. Getting those 3 shots pretty quickly. The next phase is the spider phase. Puppet Ganon moves around in circles at the top, and then eventually drops down for you to shoot the tail. There is a really quick shot you can do at the beginning right here, but it's not good to do because even if you do make it, you won't end up having enough magic if you do an optimal second phase fight for the third phase. We can shoot him once here, and then while he's turning around, we can actually shoot him again with another precise shot to the tail. And these keys drop magic, thankfully, so we can proceed with the rest of the fight. Just have to wait for him to come down again. Yeah, one more time. Right, so this is the Moldorm phase. We can get a pretty easy shot once again, right off the bat. Some good aiming. And then right here, I'm going to attempt to quick spin Puppet Ganon's head, which you can do to stun him and make him stop so you can shoot his tail easily. Unfortunately, I didn't get it very fast on the last hit right here. I ended up getting hit twice, I believe. This time I got him, though. And, yeah, so that's Puppet Ganon. Done speedrun style. Hope you enjoyed it. Puppet Ganon explodes, and we're done with him. Now Ganon's wondering why it took us so long to beat Puppet Ganon. Because he was out there with Zelda on the bed like 40 minutes ago. Like, what took you so long? Yeah. So now we get to climb the infamous red rope. This rope is actually so long that if you mash A while you're on it, you'll consistently re-grab higher on it for a while. And you can sort of use that to, like, hover up it, which is funny. And it saves, like, 2 seconds. Here we just climb all the way up. I only had a heart and a half when I did this. So instead of going straight to the Ganon loading zone, I actually took some time to get 2 extra hearts. I didn't end up needing them, thankfully, but it's just nice to have that safety net, essentially when you're going in, or especially when you're going in for a run like this. Because each of Ganon's hits does 1 heart of damage. Now we use the hook shot. We don't have to use the grapple hook the second time because we're close enough. Gotta just shoot the platform with the hook shot. And go into the Ganon loading zone. So now we watch one final long cutscene for the fight. If cutscenes were skippable for this category, it would most likely definitely be under 2 hours long. If we could skip like all the major long cutscenes. So it's kind of unfortunate that we can't skip cutscenes, but I still enjoy running the game either way. I can sit through the cutscenes and enjoy them. Mainly because they give you lots of breaks for the run. Anyway, somehow we obtained the Triforce, even though we never did, so thanks to the game for giving us the Triforce. Even though it kind of did that for other characters also. And Master Sword almost impales Zelda, but just barely misses, thankfully. Now Ganondorf wishes to take the entire sea away and claim Hyrule for himself. Of course, though, that can't happen, so we have to introduce some sort of plot element that stops that. And right here, the king actually doesn't touch the Triforce. It's another camera trick for some reason. His hand is like 2 feet away from it. And it responds to his wish. And drowns Ganondorf in Hyrule. But first we have to fight him, because it wouldn't be the end of the game without a final boss fight with Ganondorf. This is the obligatory wheh 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 spam that people like to do. We've gotten up. People say a few lines. Zelda gives us back our sword that she can apparently hold now. So optimally, the Ganondorf fight will be like 40 seconds long. With the Iron Boot strats that we have for the fight. The Iron Boots are useful because they allow you to do much quicker jump attacks, and by extension, much quicker jump spin attacks, since the jump slashes take a much shorter time to complete themselves. So we start off the fight, we don't move from our position. From this position, Zelda will shoot Ganondorf, and we can do a jump spin attack, the Iron Boots, which does enough damage, actually, to start the next phase, immediately after Zelda shoots him again. So that's the first phase. Now we go on to the second phase. We equip the Iron Boots again. We wait for Ganondorf to jump up before we equip them, and then do a parry, do more jump spin attacks, and unequip the Iron Boots. That's enough damage for the second phase. Now just the third phase is left, where Zelda shoots us with a light arrow. Zelda shoots the Mirror Shield, reflects back at Ganon, and that is the Wind Waker HD All Dungeons in 2 hours, 48 minutes, and 28 seconds. So this is like the effort of a category that I've been sort of grinding for the last month or so. So I'm pretty happy with this time that I have. I know that it could definitely go lower. I'm obviously not like tied with my summit best. But for now I'm happy with this time. I will likely try to improve it in the future, though. But for now, I'm moving on to other categories. And so yeah, I hope you all enjoyed that run. I had a lot of fun running this category. To me, it's the best Wind Waker HD category ever, because it goes through pretty much everything that I like about the game, besides like the introduction, like Outset and all that. But, yeah. So, thank you very much for watching. And thank you very much to everybody in the Wind Waker HD community whose culminated efforts come together to make pretty much every category. Like, the runners and glitch hunters of this game, all their efforts are pretty much shown in each run that everyone does. Like, there's a trick that, you know, everybody has contributed to in this game. It's not just like a single person going through and doing things, it's a community working together to make a game fast. And that's also one of the other reasons that I really like speedrunning. Yeah, once again, thank you very much for watching. But I have some chicken tendies in the freezer that are calling me to warm them up and eat because I'm hungry and my voice is dead, so I'm going to go. But yeah, again, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this post-commentary of The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker HD All Dungeons speedrun in 2 hours, 48 minutes, and 28 seconds. So, goodbye.